Hello, everybody. Wait for you guys to hop on. Hello. All right. See a couple people hopping in. I'll grab my water really quick. Let's see. So, sorry, I have a glare from my light. It's just gonna be there. Yeah, I know it's from my light. Can't help it. I'll move a little bit, readjust. That's a little bit better. It's just from where the light's at. So I wanted to hop on to the live and talk about the first movie on the list, which I just want to say I'm already on number 4. Hi, Tiara. I don't know if you started watching that Netflix list. I did, because I've been bored. But, so the first one on the list was Dream House. And, man, girl. Well, guess what? We talking about it, and you're just gonna have to go back and rewatch it. Because when I tell you that was a good freaking movie, like, that was a good movie. Like, at first, it was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a mind fuck. But I mean, I'm pretty positive it was like a psychological thriller. That's what I'm looking at real quick. So I did put in the description box. Oh, so it's a thriller crime, but it did have a little bit of like a psychological aspect to it, because like it did, like Mom said, it had you thinking. Like at one point I was like, wait, what? Yeah, I know you do. Like, Mom watched the movie, and I went, as soon as I finished, I like went over to her and I was like, I didn't expect it to be like that. Which is funny though, because when I first started watching it, I was like, I've seen this movie before. And I think that I had started watching it and then like I never finished it. But I mean, like, so I don't know how many details I really want to give you, Tiara. Like, it was a really good one. It's not scary, so you're not gonna be scared of it. It's not really a scary movie, but it's basically like the guy, the main character, his name is like Will or something. Will. And he ends up like moving to like a different town, a different house or whatever. And like weird shit just starts happening in the house. Yeah, I don't plan on giving too many details. But weird shit starts happening in the house. And his neighbor's like super weird. And he ends up like, it's like one night he hears noises and like he goes downstairs, I guess to like the basement or something like that. And he's like peeking through and he just sees like people down there in his basement. And then like he ends up like popping on them. They all take off like running and shit like that. It's just basically like a bunch of teenagers. And they were like, oh, somebody's been like, you know, like this whole family was murdered in this house, blah, 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 blah. And the guy's like, wait, what? What do you mean someone's been murdered in the house? And he was like, have you guys been watching me? Have you been watching my family? And the teenagers are like, oh, he's back. And then they end up like leaving. He goes back into the basement and these teenagers are like hella emo gothic teenagers. So they had like a whole like, it was like a freaking cult down there in their freaking basement. Like candles, writings all on the wall, all types of shit. And, you know, he ends up like trying to go to the town to like investigate more on what happened. He's like talking to the cops and the cops are just being like complete dicks to him. And I was like, gosh, these cops are assholes. And which later on in the movie it explains why they're acting that way. And like the neighbors being like all suspicious, like not really saying anything. And I'm not trying to give away too many details, but at the same time we are talking about it, so might end up giving away quite a bit of details. Just saying, 'cause I mean this is the chat room to talk about it. But let's see. He ends up like finding more. He ends up like, I don't know like how he ends up getting the information, but then finds out that in the house, basically it was assumed that the husband shot the 2 kids and shot the wife. And instead of the husband going to jail, he went to like I guess it was like an outpatient residential mental like house or something like that. And so he ends up finding out the guy is like Peter Ward. That's the husband's name or whatever. And so he ends up going to the little outhouse or the little house place thing or whatever. Yeah, mental facility. And so he ends up going out there and he's like trying to hunt down Peter Ward. And like in mental facilities, like, well, it's a mental facility, but it's also like an outpatient one. So it's like it's where they can go in and out and stuff like that, but they have to be like inside the like curfew, so they're not like on like a complete lockdown. And it's set up to where like, say this is the wall right here, they have like little mail slots so everybody can get their mail and stuff like that. And he sees Peter Ward and he sees the room number. So the lady, when I tell you that lady was hella rude, I was like, you have a stank ass attitude for no reason. I would have threw something at her. That's how much she made me mad. So she was like, I told you to go sit down. And so as soon as she turned around, he took off running up the stairs to go and find this room because he was like, fuck you, I'm going to go find Peter Ward myself. So he goes up there, and when I tell you these movies, these people are so fucking impatient because like he could have just sat down, the lady could have been like, well, I mean, I guess it kind of adds the suspension to it. So, but he's a nosy fuck, okay? So he sees the room number and he's like, all right, the door's closed. Guess what the fuck he did? He was like, fuck your privacy. He walked in that bitch and there's nobody in there. So he's like looking around and he walks up to like the little dresser, and on that dresser is a picture of his wife and his 2 kids. And he's like, how the fuck? Like this person's been in my house. How do you have a picture of my wife and my kids? And so then this guy creeps up behind him and was like, what are you doing in my room? And he goes, what the fuck are you talking about? How'd you get this? And he's like snapping on the dude, and like, poor guy. I just gotta say, the guy, he was scared shitless. And he was like, wait, what? And he was like, I already know you're Peter Ward. And he was like, I'm not Peter Ward. Like, he took out the freaking paper that basically said that he was mentally insane, that had his name and case number and all types of shit. And he goes, here you go. This is who I am. Like, that's just, to me, that was just like a really weird way to like identify yourself. Hold on, let me go grab my mental health records and show you exactly who I am. So that's what he grabbed. Me, I would have grabbed a license or something, been like, bitch, here's a picture, here's my name. So the guy's like, this stuff was already here in this room, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, dude, Peter Ward is out there in the city. He was like, Peter Ward's not here anymore. So Peter Ward got released. And at this point, I'm sitting here like, I'm not catching on to this. Like, I'm so confused. Like, why would he go and steal all of this shit out of their house? Like, I was just lost, but I was just like, okay, there's got to be another point to it. So he ends up going back to his house, and his like wife was like, her name's like Libby. And oh, it was so funny. So the kid's name is like Trish and something else. And so the mom at one point in the movie was like, Trish. And I like looked over and I was like, oh, wait. It's the movie. It's not for me. So used to hearing people say that. So Libby was like, "You're hiding things from me. Just tell me what's going on." And he's like, "I'm not telling you anything. I got it solved." Got it solved. So then he ends up, I guess it was like later in the evening. I just got the neighbor across the street. Like, I knew that she was involved because she was just like, she was very secretive, and like, he was always like asking her, like, "Can you tell me what happened to this house?" And she'd like take off running and shit. And I'd just be like, my ass would have been like, "So tell me why. This is what happened. This is what happened. Oh, let me tell you all these dirty details." No, she was just secretive. But she was watching him like all the time. I got to do the voice changes. You got to know that it's different characters. And so it's like later on at night, and all of a sudden there's like a bright light shining through the window. And the wife's like, "Honey, who's that?" And he's like, "I'll figure it out." Well, he goes outside, and there was, I think they said it was like a burgundy Buick. I'm pretty positive. I remember that one. And so he steps off the steps, and I'm like, I don't understand why they have these white people do this in the movies. I'm like, they're all heroic and shit, because you know damn well in real life, if there is a car that's not, mind you, it's not in the driveway, it's in front of his steps of his house, most normal people are going to stay their asses inside. They're not going to walk down them steps because it's a car versus a human. Who you think really going to win? If you think it's a human, you might need to go to a mental institution and get that checked out, because do you know how much cars weigh? I would hope to God it weighs more than you. So this car's like revving its engine, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And in my head, like, "You're about to get ran over, bitch." That's what the fuck he's doing. So the car's like taking off on him, and he like goes and like almost hits the dude. He like flies back all dramatically and crap. And then the car like reverses, and he like hops up like he's about to fight the car. Like, the person ain't gonna get out the car, but here you are sitting here like, what? And I'm like, this is how y'all die in movies. Like, let's think these things through. And he, like, the wife's like, "No, Will, stop." And he's like, "Libby, get in the house." And I'm like, I'm just laughing at this part, because I'm like, where's my popcorn at this point? You know, it wasn't scary. It was more dramatic than anything, I gotta say. And so after the car tries to like hit him a couple more times, the car just like takes off. Well, shit, you know, like 2.5 seconds later, whoop, whoop, the cops are there. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who called the cops, you know, but it's a small town, blah, blah, blah. So I guarantee you, I believe the neighbor's name was like Ann or something like that. I guarantee you Ann's nosy ass was peeking through that window like, I knew there was some good ass drama that was going to be happening down in this neighborhood once y'all moved in. Because I know I'm nosy. I stare at my neighbors quite a bit. But, sorry, with the sniffing, it's allergies. So then the cops, they're like, "Calm down, sir. Everything's gonna be okay." And he's like, "No, I just almost got ran over by this burgundy Buick. He just went that way. Like, you guys need to go chase him. What are you guys doing?" And the cops are like, "Calm it down, sir." And I was like, ooh, these cops ain't finna do shit. I was like, they're not gonna do a damn thing. And he's like flipping out, like popping back and forth. "You gotta go after him. He's getting away. Go do your fucking job." And I was like, that's how you do it right there. You yell at them. Just pray to God they don't take their guns out. And so next thing you know, another cop car comes in the direction that the Buick went. So the Buick's heading that way. The cop car's coming from this way. And the cop hop out the car, and they're like, "Sir, calm it down. Everything is handled." And he goes, "No, the fuck it isn't. You just passed the Buick. What are you doing?" And then, like, the cops are like, "What?" You'll understand. I can't explain the why. So when you watch it, you'll be confused. but it explains the why later on. But they didn't do anything. And my favorite part of that whole exchange was when he was like, the fuck are you doing? He goes, you're sitting there taking notes and shit, but you're not doing anything. And then he goes, you're fucking useless. You're just all fucking useless. And he walks away. He goes, don't worry. I'll do it myself, and I'll kill the bastard next time. And I was like, that's how we get shit done in America. Let's go. So he goes in the house. Oh, and before he went into the house, I don't know why the hell he was carrying this picture frame still. Remember the picture frame that he took from the mental facility? He had it in his jacket pocket, and he had showed the cops and was like, that motherfucker had it in the room. He was in my house with my kids being in there, blah, blah, blah. So then, Libby's nosy ass, the wife never stays inside. She's on the porch like, wait, you told me that everything was being handled. He's been in our house. And he's just like, yeah, honey, he's been in the house. I'm sorry, but as a husband, that'd be the first thing that I say, be like, all right, maybe we should go on a little vacation. Let's change these locks, blah, 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 this, that, the third. So they go on about their business. And I love how after he goes into the house, like it kind of cuts to Anne's house and you see Anne peeking out. And I was like, Anne is kind of like watching out for you, but she real nosy. She real nosy. All right. Anne, like I liked Anne, but she was I just wish that she would have talked more. I mean, she talked more towards the ending, but it was like at that point, it was like she was just like, she just seemed very mysterious and snobby like, and I was just like, use your fucking words, talk, come on now. So, after all that happens, gosh, what happens after that? Fucking crazy ass shit. So he ends up meeting somebody, getting more information and meeting somebody. And, oh yeah, he ends up going, I don't know, I guess this was like the gym, and talked to this guy who I guess was like his case handler, but could have been his psychologist. And so he's talking to this guy, telling him everything that's happening, how like this guy's been watching him and coming into his house and all this stuff, and nobody's telling him what went on in that house, this, that, the third, besides the information that like he knew or whatever. And so I'm going to pause right there and backtrack it. While they were in the house, they were fixing it up. At one point, Libby was upstairs and she was like fixing the wall or something like that. And she was just standing there all frozen. And this was after Anne, her friendly ass, decided to bring over some stew because it was a cold winter night. And like he was like, honey, come downstairs and say hi to the neighbor. And of course, Libby, she didn't come downstairs. So then Anne ended up leaving, and then he went upstairs, and she's just like frozen. And he's like, why didn't you come downstairs? And she's like, this is where the mother was shot at. Just like randomly. And he's like, oh, okay. And then she goes, and that's where the kids were shot at. But like there was like bullet holes like in the wall. So I guess like they were still like working and patching everything up in the house or whatever at that time. So fast forward back to when he was talking to the guy. He was explaining everything to the guy about what was happening. So the guy started showing him clips of Peter Ward while he was in the mental facility. Like this was the mental facility where he was actually locked down, where like, they gotta take their meds. It's like constantly patrolled. They can't actually leave or anything like that. So he's showing him footage and stuff like that. They knew everything that, like, you'll see. You'll get the connection. It'll piece together in a second. So he's showing them video footage of, like, and they're like, we had to have footage on him at all times and stuff like that. And he was like, why? That's so weird and stuff like that. And the guy, like, going fucking psychotic, like, in his, like, little room, just like down in the basement, there was, like, words written everywhere. Like, all over the place. He was like, one of those like nutcases basically. And it gets to a part of the video where Will goes, wait, pause. I know that lady. That's my neighbor. That's Anne. So they had video footage of Anne meeting Peter Ward in the mental facility. All right. And, you know, she seemed like all worried and stuff like that. And he was like, I knew she knew more. I knew she had more information on the house and what happened, and she won't tell me. And the guy's just like, uh-huh, yeah, yep. Well, okay, we're going to go ahead and keep on continue this video. And I'm like, what else is there got to be? So then they have footage, and it's like the camera was set up like in like one of like the air vents or whatever. And Peter Ward was a smart motherfucker. He knew that they were watching his ass. So he ends up going up there and undoing the air vent, but he ends up turning, and the guy, he like hits the screen, he pauses it. He goes, you see that? And all you see is he was like, what's that from? And he goes, it was a gunshot wound. And now I'm kind of like, okay, if Peter Ward killed his wife and killed his 2 kids, how the fuck did he get a gunshot wound in the back of his head? And, you know, Will ended up having the same question. And the guy was like, oh, we assume that when it happened, somehow the wife got a hold of the gun, shot him in the back of the head, and then ended up shooting. He ended up getting the gun back and then killing his wife or something like that. It's probably because everybody's on the Wi-Fi. I wouldn't doubt it. So, you know, if he did all of this and he killed his wife and he killed his kids, why the hell did y'all let him loose? Blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, mind you, this murder had happened like 5 years previous or something like that. So, I mean, he wasn't really locked up in a mental institution for that long. It was only like 5 years. So the guy, he goes, try backing out and going back in. That might help. Because it still shows my microphone going. Can you hear me, Mom? Did you try it, Tiara? Whoops. Sorry. I'm looking on my other phone. Is it still twirling? Is it still loading, or is it good now? What about you, Tiara? I can't spell on this thing. Can everybody see and hear me okay? I don't know who else is in the room. Only Mom is talking. Tiara was, but Tiara, what about now? Can you still see me, Mom, or hear me? I went to a hotspot instead of the Wi-Fi. See if that's any better. Because most likely my brothers are playing video games super heavy. Can you see or hear me? Or is it pretty much the same? I'll give it another couple of seconds and then I'll go back into my crazy explaining of the story. She's gonna miss the good part if she's not in here. Let's get into the good part. I mean, all of it was good. It was a really good movie. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's Netflix. On Netflix, Dream House. It's only like an hour and like 15 minutes, give or take. And then if you want to binge watch the other movies that are on my list, it's on the previous live, which is already posted on my page, the Netflix Party Rant. You don't have to watch the entire video, but if you go to the description box, so if you're on your cell phone, underneath the video there'll be like the title, and then in the corner there'll be a Dropbox arrow. Click that, and there's a whole entire like description in that box. And I have a list of like, I think like 11. Because I think I added like an extra like 1 or 2 on there. So it might be like 11 or 12 Netflix TV. 3 of them are TV shows, and I believe the rest are all movies. Or there might actually be 4. There might be 4 TV shows. I'm already on number 4, which I can't wait till we talk about that. I would suggest, even if you have to skip the other 2, watch number 4. Number 4 is Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. It is a limited series on Netflix. I think it's only like 5 episodes, and they're about like 45 minutes long or something like that. I'm not finished with it yet. I'm only like, I think I'm just started into episode 4, but it's funny. It's good. It's very interesting. Alright, I think we're just gonna continue on without Tiara because she hasn't responded to me. So, sorry, Tiara. She can always come back and watch. The guy, so he was like at one point, so they're watching the video, and the guy's just like, the guy who was showing Will the video, he was like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and keep on watching this video. So he presses play, and all of a sudden, Peter Ward turns his face around, and you actually see what Peter Ward looks like. Well, the guy pauses the movie, and he's just looking at Will, and Will goes, "That's not Peter Ward." The guy's like, "I know." And Will goes, "That's me. That's my face. That's me in that video." And the guy goes, "You are Peter Ward." And Will's all like, "No, I'm Will." And his name was like Will Aidenton or something like that. And this is why I think the guy, he had to have been like a psychologist or something, or like, I'm thinking he had to have been like the like head psychologist or some shit. He pulls out the hospital band, and on there it says Peter Ward. And he goes, this was your hospital band. And, you know, Will's like, no, that's not me. I'm Will. And he goes, yeah, but if you look, there's a name change on there. And it was like WIL1 or something like that, which spelled out Will. And then it was 08110 or 1010. And he was like, this spells out Will Aidenton. So he basically had like this, I guess it's like, what is the word I'm looking for? It's like a pseudonym, I guess you can say. I'm pretty positive that's the word I'm looking for. It's a pseudonym. So he had built a whole new name. And so Will's like freaking out, and he goes, I'm not Peter Ward. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And the guy's like, no, you are Peter Ward. You killed your wife, and you killed your 2 kids. And, you know, you were here for the past 5 years. Like, you were just released, blah, blah, blah. And Will's like, no, I'm Will. Like, I'll call my wife right now, and she'll answer. So he picks up his phone, and he calls. And he's, like, having a conversation. And he's like, no, honey, everything's okay. And then he goes to the guy, and he was like, do you want to talk to my wife? And the guy's like, no. And, like, when he was, like, having his freak out, all these officers came out of nowhere and were, like, on the side, hands on their, like, gun upholstery, and they're just looking like, just waiting for something to go down. So then Will's like, you're fucking psychotic. And, like, you know, he was like, I'll be home soon, let me blah, blah, blah. So he hangs up. And then he ends up leaving. And as he's, like, leaving, like, the jail area or whatever, all these people are like, Peter, what's up, Peter? And, like, a cop's like, they always come back. I knew I'd see your face again. You guys always end up coming back. And Will's just like, what the fuck is going on? And then there's, like, this Mandarin lady. And she was, like, speaking, like, Mandarin. And she's like, Peter! And then starts, like, saying some random shit. And she's, like, crying and, like, trying to, like, hug him. And Will's just like, bitch, who the fuck are you? So he goes on about his business. He leaves and, like, he goes home or whatever. And he ends up so he goes home. I think he was having, like, dinner with his family or whatever. And there's a knock at the door. And he goes and answers it. And it's cop. Well, it's a guy. And he was like, oh, I need you to come out and read this. So as soon as Will steps out of the house, all of a sudden all these cops come and, like, you know, they're boarding up the house and they're like, this place isn't fit for you to live in. So then he ends up, like, freaking out, and then, like, you know, friendly neighbor Ann comes out and basically lets him come into the house or whatever. And she's like, lets him take a bath or whatever. And he was like, well, they were talking beforehand, and she was like, yes, like, I knew you and stuff like that. And she was like, I knew your wife and stuff like that. So he's like, if you're catching on, he's having, like, a psychological breakdown or whatever. Like, you know, Will is Peter Ward. All right. So he was, like, going crazy. She ends up giving him, like, I guess in his jacket pocket was, like, his therapist's business card. So he ends up going to the lady, and the lady's like, did you start writing your novel yet? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I haven't wrote a novel. And she's like, oh, I think you should, like, you know, start coming here more so I can really help you out. Like, you're not in the right mind or whatever. So then he ends up trying to go back to the house, and he like sneaks through like this side to go into like this side door, and someone was like in there like basically waiting, because this all happened like in a short time span or whatever, and they were like, yep, nope, you can't come in here, nope, it's not fit to live in, nope, bye. So he leaves. So then he ends up coming back around to where he was like, fuck this. He breaks into the door, like breaks the glass or whatever, gets in, takes the boards off, and he shuts the doors. And he's sitting there, and this is like, I guess, like where he's actually in reality now. Okay, so all before where he was with Libby and everything, it was all in his head. That's where the psychological shit comes in. That's where you kind of get mind fucked and you're like, okay, so all of that before wasn't really real. So he's sitting there and he's like talking with, he's like sitting at the table and he lights a candle. He's by himself. And you can see that the house is like really run down. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting at the kitchen table and you hear his kids, Daddy, tell us a story. And, you know, they're talking, and then he was like, shut up. And the wife's like, wait, what's going on, Will? You don't look like you feel good. And then she was like, oh, you're running a fever. So then, you know, she goes and he does his own thing and, you know, goes upstairs and lays down, and he like falls asleep. He wakes up to Libby like yelling his name. And he goes into his kid's room, and Libby's there, and she's holding the youngest one. I think her nickname was like Dee Dee or something. And he was holding Trish, the other child. And she was like, Libby's like freaking out, and she's like, you gave your kids the fever. You gave them your fever. They're not feeling good. And like, you know, the kids are like, I can't breathe. And we all know this, that the oldest daughter is like bleeding in like certain spots, and he's like coming to reality now of, this isn't real, my kids are dying. And like you could tell that like it was a gunshot wound. So then Libby like freaks out, and she's holding the youngest one, and she's like, oh my god, she's bleeding, I don't know why she's bleeding. And Will's just like, Libby, your kids are fucking dead, I killed them, like they're dead. And Libby's like flipping out, and she's like beating him, and she's like, why aren't you doing anything to help our kids? Why aren't you doing anything? And before all of that, I was trying to tell Libby like this was all fake, like this was all in his head, like you're dead, the kids are dead, I'm alive. And there was like back in the day when people used to measure their kids, they used to put like the little notches on the wall. He had put the kids there, and it was exactly where the notches were at. And he was like trying to prove to Libby, like, hey, these notches were here because we put them there. Like, they weren't a part of the house. Like, I'm trying to tell you that you're fucking dead. And so are the kids. And so she's like flipping out. And then all of a sudden there's like a knock on the door. And it's Anne or whatever. But like he's like trying to get Libby to like tell him what happened. And she's like, nothing happened. And he was like, no, tell me what happened. And she was like, oh, I was talking to you on the phone, and I heard you walking up the stairs or walking in the house. And then next thing you know, the kids were dead and I was dead. And then, you know, they end up, he ends up like finally going downstairs, like answering the door, and it's Anne. And she's like, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. You can't live here. And then like he pulls her inside and was like, you need to tell me what's going on. Like, tell me what's going on. And Anne was like, I was Libby's best friend. We were all friends. Like, I lived across the street. We were neighbors. We were friends. Our kids, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, a guy comes out of the shadows. And I was like, this is kind of, like, I'm kind of confused because, like, Will doesn't think he killed his kids or his wife, and no one knows what the fuck's going on, because Anne was like, I don't think you killed them or whatever. But no one knows. So then all of a sudden this guy comes out of the shadows and basically like hits Will or whatever. He got knocked the fuck out, let's just say that. And then another guy comes out of the shadow. And the first guy was Anne's ex-husband. Alright? Anne's ex-husband was an asshole. He was an asshole. Total douchebag. And so basically they're like beating the living shit out of Will. And, you know, they grab chloroform and they kind of like knock both of them out. And they drag him downstairs to the basement. And the husband is tying up Anne. Oh yeah, he was such a dick. And so he ties up Anne and Will is just still knocked the fuck out. So then like the husband kind of has like a flashback or whatever of where he was talking to the other guy. And this is where it all starts piecing together and you're like, oh, you're a shiesty motherfucker. All right. So the husband had hired a hitman to take out his wife because he didn't want his wife to get his house or the car or his child or none of that shit. He was like, no, like, fuck you, you're not getting anything. Well, he was in his own house, wherever the hell he lived at, and he was on the phone with the hitman. And he was like, okay, go down this street, and it's the third house on the right. Well, Will and Libby's house was the third house to the left. Well, the hitman wasn't paying attention, and, you know, he was looking at Libby's house and not Anne's house, you know. And he was like, the hitman was like, oh, yeah, I see her. She's out there talking on the phone, probably to her, like, little boyfriend or whatever. And, you know, Anne's husband, ex-husband was like, all right, get it done. So then Libby, like, while he's having, like, his little flashback thing or whatever, Libby's trying to get him to wake up or whatever. And that's when he realizes that he didn't kill Libby. He was coming inside, like, he was on his way to come inside. The hitman was already in the house. Libby was on the phone with her husband, Will, and seen the hitman and was like, oh my God, kids, run. Like, you know, stay still. And then was like, run or whatever. And then he gets in there and he's fighting the hitman. And the gun comes loose. And Libby did grab the gun. She was trying to kill the hitman, who I'm assuming at that point in time she just thought was just like a random intruder. And she ends up shooting Will. But then she ended up dying. And obviously the hitman ran away. And so the ex-husband starts talking to the hitman. And he was just like, you fucked up everything. Like, you were supposed to go and kill my wife. You weren't supposed to go and kill the neighbor's wife and kids. And then the ex-husband shoots the hitman. And what made me laugh and was like, you're really a shicey ass motherfucker, was as he shot the hitman, he was like, you fucking child killer. And in my head, I'm like, I probably said it out loud too. I was just like, but you're the one who orchestrated all of this shit. Basically, you're a fucking child killer too, because one, you hired a stupid ass hitman who couldn't even figure out his damn left from his right. So really it all falls back on you for trying to be cheap and not get a real smart hitman, let's be honest. But also you're a shicey motherfucker because you just let your ego get so big that you couldn't go through divorce and lose your house But if you weren't such a fucking dick, you could still, like, he still had his child in his life. Like, he had visitation rights and shit like that. But it's like, if you weren't such a dick, I'm sure that Anne will let you see the child more. But you're just rude for no reason. You know, ego is just way too freaking big. And so, you know, he kills the hitman. All right. So now Will's like awake and all this shit. And basically all this, like, you know, he's like hides or whatever. The ex-husband, I don't know what the ex-husband's name is. He ends up coming back downstairs and realizes that, fuck, Will is gone. So then Libby does some real ghost-ass shit. And she's, like, hitting shit to, like, try to distract the ex-husband from seeing Will and shit like that. And then, because Will, he had started, or the ex-husband had started pouring alcohol or gasoline everywhere. So, because he was going to start a fire and just burn the fuck out of the house with Anne in it. So, you know, he can get his lovely house back and his kid and all this shit. And so, you know, Will ends up, like, you know, I think Will actually ended up shooting. No, I think he just, like, I don't know if he ended up shooting him or something, or ended up, like, knocking the husband down or some shit like that. I have no idea. I think he just hit the husband really hard. And he was able to grab Anne, untie her, and then he took off running up the stairs and got her outside. Well, the ex-husband tried to make, like, a grand escape out of the house or out of the basement. And, well, guess what? The hitman was still alive. And he's just looking down with the gun. I guess the hitman had his own gun or whatever. And he's just staring down the basement, just waiting for the ex-husband to come on up. And the ex-husband starts coming up. He, like, pours gasoline down that bitch. So it ends up all lighting up on fucking fire. So they ended up basically, the hitman and the horrible ex-husband ended up dying together. Which, I mean, they both deserved it, let's be honest. But, I mean, the ending was really, really good. He did end up writing his novel. Proud of him. But it was crazy. Like, it made me realize that, like, you can go through, like, something, like, really traumatic, and basically your mind covers up what happened in the past, basically to protect yourself. But I don't know, it's crazy how the mind works. Because I know that happens every day in real life. Like, people go through things traumatically, and their mind covers it up. Or, you know, basically, like, changes, like, the scenario, makes you forget things and stuff like that. But that movie was, like, a huge mindfuck. A huge mindfuck. So if you have not seen it, go see it. It's on Netflix. Really good movie. I would talk about the next movie, but I'm sure not everybody's seen the next movie. I've seen the next movie. It was pretty good. It was the next movie, Polaroid. I'm not going to go into details about it on this live. I'll go live about it another time. It honestly, to me, wasn't that scary. It was good. Don't get me wrong. It was a good movie. But I don't know. I really like horror movies. But it just wasn't scary to me. I don't know. Maybe I just watched scary movies way too much that it wasn't scary to me. But, like, I even, like, seen this thing on, like, social media. And it was, like, try watching, like, horror movies or scary movies. My light bulb, it changes colors and dimness and all that stuff. So they're like, try watching a scary movie or horror movie in red light. So I changed my light to red and I dimmed that bitch. And I was watching the movie. And I was like, I didn't jump at all. I giggled at parts of it because I was like, damn, y'all should have seen that coming. It was really good. It was good. It just, to me, it wasn't scary. But it was a good movie. Have you seen Polaroid yet, Mom? Or anybody else, whoever's in the chat? So I think what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to go down the list of movies and TV shows. I should take notes on them. That way we can really talk about it. Polaroid was interesting. It's like, what would you say it is? It's like I guess you could say it was like a paranormal sort of thing. Or, yeah, I guess you could say it's like a paranormal, scary. But it still does have some gory parts too. Well, not like extremely gory. But it does have some parts that are kind of like, eh. But it was a good movie, though. Don't get me wrong. It was a good movie. So that's going to be the next movie we talk about is Polaroid. And then number 3. Gotta look at the list. Let's see. So Polaroid is on the second thing that we're going to be talking about. And then the third is The Stranger, which is a crime TV drama. And that's 1 season, 8 episodes. That one's really good. I believe the episodes are like 45 minutes long. I finished that in like a day and a half. That one was really good. So I got to skip number 3 since I've already seen that. So right now I'm on number 4, which is the Tiger King Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. That is interesting. I'll probably end up finishing that probably tonight, because I probably won't go to bed for another couple hours. But yeah, I think the next time we go live, we'll talk about Polaroid, probably The Stranger, and probably Tiger King. So, I mean, I probably won't go live for a couple days. Probably see where everybody's at. But probably maybe go live. What is today? Monday? Maybe go live Thursday or Friday. Gives you guys a couple of days to watch the movie and then the TV shows. I mean, most of us aren't working right now, so it shouldn't take too long to get through those if we have nothing else to do. But yeah, after I finish Tiger King, I'm going to watch the next on the list, which is Girl on the Third Floor. I've never seen it. It sounded like it would be pretty interesting, so we'll see. That's a movie. And then I forgot one of the TV shows on this list, so I'll have to add that TV show on there. I might start watching that TV show. One of the TV shows I forgot was The Sinner. So I have to add that to the list. But it was fun talking with you guys. I will see you guys sometime this week, and we can talk about the next ones on the list. So yeah, go ahead, go on Netflix, go and watch those. The list is in my first live video. So it's the video that is titled Netflix Party Rant, and in the description box it has the list of the TV shows and movies I want to watch and discuss with you guys. So yeah, go ahead and watch those. Go ahead and like this video. And if you have not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. And make sure you hit your notification bell button so you get notified next time I go live. It's good talking with you guys. You guys have a good night. Bye.